WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Vision Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the program is We Should Know. I want to thank Nicole for that wonderful introduction she does for us each and every time. Tuesday 2:30 to 3:30, Star Vision TV 7 p.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Reprinted the Sampson Weekly newspaper. We're streaming on oldies1170.com 2:30 to 3:30 on Tuesday. This show is also uplinked now. Our producer Chris Ure is uplinking the program to YouTube, so hopefully you can tune in if you happen to miss a particular program. Next week, a very interesting program coming up. Institute of Government, Jeffrey Welty will be with us. We're going to talk about gun control, specifically from the constitutionality, the legalistic end of gun control, and what you may or may not know about those legal issues. So tune in for us next Tuesday, the 29th. Today, we've got a very interesting program, something that you need to know about, and we should know, and that's Cameron Spell and Becky Spell are with us. Guys, thank you for coming back. We're talking about the whole issue of faith today. But before we start, I want to kind of give you guys to talk a little bit. Before we went on air, Cameron, we were talking about the idea that oftentimes you do something for years and then you'll see somebody you hadn't seen in a while and they'll go, oh, you're still doing A, B, or C, and you haven't been doing that for 10 years. And you're going, no, I've been doing this other for so long. So although a lot of people know what you and Becky, your mother, have been doing, and Tim's Gift and that kind of thing, there's probably still some folks out there that maybe need to be a little bit refreshed about that and how you got into this whole idea of this, and I'll use the phraseology, faith-challenged experiment.
Well, it's good to be back with you, JW. And as far as what we do and what we're doing, Tim's Gift Incorporated, we're located right on Northeast Boulevard across from International Case Tractor Place. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we just want to help people. And we are community-based. We have a faith-based organization. The gist of what we do, and there's a number of things we do that is sometimes kind of hard to explain, but we do recycle medical equipment. We take donations, everything from creams and underpads to walkers, canes, wheelchairs, whatever it might be. And we help get those to people in need that either can't afford it, maybe has something that's broken, where insurance won't pay for it again, or whatever the case may be. We try to help them with those needs. We also have a program called the Hope Project, which is a financial assistance fund, which is designed to help make up co-pays and co-insurance that the patient would have out of pocket, that the insurance doesn't pay for cancer treatment. So we have that kicked off last year. So we're in our second year of that, and a number of people need a lot of help with those things because the financial burden is so great. We also have what we call the Love Ministry, which is basically the ministerial arm of our organization, which every Tuesday morning at 7:30 we are open for prayer. People kind of come in and go out, and we even take phone calls where people will call us and put them on our prayer list. We try to do as much outreach stuff as we can, visiting and things like that. So there's a whole number of things that we do and that we can offer. And it's like I always tell people, if there's something you need, or you know someone in need, if it's something we can't physically do or we don't have the capabilities, we try to help network and provide information to get that person connected to whatever organization can help them further.
Becky, you got into this, and I know we've talked about this before, but a lot of folks have and are currently dealing with what you and Cameron both face. Somebody that you love dearly in your family that goes through, and it seems like tragedy is just not a strong enough word, the tragedy of cancer. The word cancer is something that we don't even like to use that much. You'll hear people say they got the C word or whatever. They don't particularly want to call it that. But Tim was well known in the community, great guy. Literally, by saying this, he's a guy that was bigger than life. I mean, you see him, he's just a huge guy, but always a smile on his face. And he kind of, amplified what Cameron just talked about, that sense of caring for the community. Way before he knew he had cancer, this was not a non-issue. Can you kind of tell us how that went for you and how you felt as you went through that, because there's so many people going through that now, and it affects not only the family but the entire community, the church family, the social base they have.
It's true, JW, and so many people, when you're going through that experience, it's a valley that you think won't ever end, and you feel hopeless sometimes and even helpless, and that's why we're so excited to be able to do this, but it's nothing we ever planned. You know, God's plans aren't our plans, and to be honest, when Tim passed away, 2 months later is when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I had surgery for colon cancer at UNC in August of '07. And it was then that I think I came to the fruition of exactly what we were supposed to do in that building where Tim had insurance for over 3 decades. Is because when you're faced with it, when you hear the C word, you know, it can be a loved one, a friend, even a stranger, and you have concerns, but when you're facing life or death, and when I was healed, and so many people said, well, you'll be back to, you know, life as usual, and I couldn't go back there because I made a promise to God that if He helped heal in our family, and He did, I believe that Tim received God's greatest healing, and a lot of people who go through cancer, when someone passes away, they don't realize that is the greatest. But for me, I was healed here, and I felt a real burning desire inside to do something with that besides just say, you know, thank you and go back to be really living lukewarm. And whether we like to admit it or not, that's where a lot of us are. And so we took the building there, and it was just a step of faith, and that's how it all happened. So we had to be the doers, the ones who would take what God put in line for us and make it happen. But we couldn't do this without the support of this community. And now we've been a 501c3 thanks to Cameron coming on and helping with more of the, I call them the analytical issues. He's the one who understands the business side. And I'm more global, where I just take it and we want to be there for everybody. And that's what we found. Everybody has a need. Everybody needs help. And if you don't think you will, something will come along that does. And we're finding that doors are opening every day for us to help people in ways we never imagined.
Cameron, do you find yourself reaching out and getting responses from far beyond just Sampson County, the adjoining contiguous counties to Sampson? Does people call you from different counties, or is it just kind of one area?
Yeah, we have, we do extend beyond Sampson County. You know, all of our neighboring counties, we have people that we've worked with, Duplin, Bladen, Cumberland, Harnett. And we have had a few calls from out of state. Of course, with what we do, we work solely on donations. We don't receive any type of government grants or anything like that. We take no salaries or anything out of that. So every dollar that we bring in donations, we try to turn around and use it for the mission and vision of the organization. With that being said, you know, we do try to prioritize, since we are locally based, to helping the needs we have here first. And even when it comes to things like our HOPE project with the financial assistance program, we try to pay back into the doctors and facilities that are local before, you know, things that are out of state, because we do really believe in the strength of a local community.
That being said, I think one of the things that's important, and you've done this, I'm not sure how many years now, but you do an annual project in which you bring in a cross-section of the communities from a number of different counties, literally hundreds of people. And I want to mention that kind of going in this morning so we can continue to mention it throughout the show. But this program is kind of a collective of religious leadership, of dynamics on all levels of religion that empowers this sense of faith. And I think this year you're calling it, Becky, Rise Up. Is that the...
Rise Up, Reach Out.
Rise Up, Reach Out. So how did you come up with that name for the event? And tell us about the event, the date, time, location, and what hopefully your outcome will be.
Well, the whole concept, JW, is rising up. Because we're living in a time right now where we don't truly understand things. There's so much happening around us, and every day we watch the news or read the paper and we think it's atrocious, from the killing of innocent little children to terrorist acts, and we keep saying, well, what's going on? Well, all these special interest groups rise up. They demand their rights, but where are the Christians? In fact, just last week someone came to our church and asked that question, where are the Christians? And we were all so busy that we were like, what can we do? And I was taken aback there. And that's where we have seen at Tim's Gift that it is our call to rise up as Christians, everyone. And when we do that, then we're doing our part. So and in 2007, we actually began this ministry. In 2008, we started, and in 2009, we got our 501c3. That's when we realized we needed something to help people realize what's going on. So we have Rise Up, Reach Out, because we believe that's what we have to do. It's at the Sampson County Agri-Civic Center on February 9th. Doors open at 9 a.m. and it's a free event for people all day long. And we're actually calling it Reach Out because that's what we believe all people should do. And there's something there for everybody. We've got speakers, local, singers. We have vendors who are coming to share food and things that they make and sell. We have a prayer room with local people coming. It's just an event that we're praying will bring unity in our community and beyond and help people realize that it is time for us to rise up and let our voices be heard.
So I can expect, if I show up at the door, I can expect multiple events,
Yes.
Different speakers. It doesn't matter whether I'm Catholic, Presbyterian, whatever. Even an agnostic may show up. You would invite everybody to this event.
Yes, we do. We do. It's a free event, and we have all kinds of surprises. We have door prizes for the first 100 people that come. But throughout the day, there's something for everyone. During the lunch hour, we have a children's hour where all the children are welcome to come in, and we will feed them lunch and do a Bible study with them while the parents can shop and go to visit our vendors. We just want awareness because we still have people who come by Tim's Gift, JW, and they think it's a gift shop. They'll stop to buy a gift, but we do have a gift there. And our gift is giving help and hope to people. And someone that, last week, someone came in who's actually a sponsor here in our community, and they said that the reason they are supportive is because they believe that we help people that are about to go over the edge.
We're going to take our first break. We'll be back in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking with Cameron and Becky Spell, talking about faith in our community today. When we come back, we'll discuss that and explore it a little bit deeper about what's going on with your faith and your religion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you're driving down the road and listening to us on WCLN radio, you're listening to We Should Know. We're on Tuesday, 2:30 to 3:30 on WCLN and Starvision TV. Starvision TV, 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can pick us up again if you happen to miss us at 2:30 to 3:30 on Tuesday. Also, there's a summation reprint of the Sampson Weekly newspaper, and we're uplinked to YouTube, so you can go on YouTube, just type in We Should Know EDU, and you'll see a number of the shows that have been linked to YouTube already, and you can kind of pick a choice there if it's something you want to listen to, and we encourage you to do that at your leisure. Those shows are usually uplinked somewhere around Wednesday, I think, is normal time that we uplink them after they air on Tuesday, 2:30 to 3:30. We encourage you also to send us your comments to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. Suggestions, comments, questions, and I want to thank all of those folks that have done that over the past months and a couple of years that we've been doing this program. Your comments is very welcome, and your suggestions as well. Shout out to Rayford Daughtry and Jimmy Daughtry. Talked to them this week. Avid listeners and readers in the paper of the show. We appreciate your comments and your continued input as well. Becky and Cameron Spell. Faith, you're doing a lot in the community. We're talking about Rise Up, Reach Out. It's coming up February 9th. We just mentioned that, and I'll try to mention it as we go through the show. When we talk about faith, there's a lot of discussion, Cameron, been put forth with the whole concept of faith and religion. And quite frankly, when we look at some of the data, and some of this is coming from books that have been written. There's one book out called God is Alive and Well, and that particular book touts the reality that up to 75 to 80% on a recent Gallup poll was done that said that people identify themselves with some sense of Christianity. What do you say to that, and is that what you're seeing in your reflections, or how does that build with what you guys are doing?
Well, I think that's probably accurate. You can drive around any small town or anywhere, and you see a lot of small ministries, smaller churches starting to pop up, especially certain storefronts and things like that. and you're seeing kind of a migration from some of the larger congregations to some of those smaller startup churches and ministries. And I think that is evident that as a society, people are searching. And they are in need of something that they can grasp a hold of, where they have hope, where they are at peace, where they are just moving forward with whatever they consider their religion or Christianity, how they may take it. So I think that those numbers are probably fairly accurate. One thing that I do see is that this day and time, especially with a lot of the world events and especially a lot of the political arena in our country, is that that 75 to 80% needs to mobilize. Need to start voicing their beliefs as they line up with the Bible. Our nation, whether anybody wants to agree or disagree, one fact that we cannot just throw out the window is that our nation was born on godly principles and the commandments of the Bible. So I think that those numbers are accurate, and how it ties in with what we're doing is we want to be there. We want to be there to, somebody comes in and is falling to pieces, having issues, needing something. We want to be there just to listen. There's so many people that are without hope, that are hurting, that have nobody to turn to. Maybe they're not involved in a church where they feel comfortable going to a pastor or to a deacon, and they just want to reach out to somebody that may have had similar experiences, or somebody that would just listen and pray with them. And we're not special because we do that. That's what we all should do. Every one of us that is a Christian or a believer have been through trials and errors in our life, and should use those experiences to help others get through similar situations. And so that's what we just want to kind of encourage.
And one of the things in this particular book and in subsequent articles that Frank Newport has written, which is the author of the book, and also a Gallup pollster, talks about the folks they surveyed, that up to, and this is interesting to me, is up to 19-20% of those people, although they say, I have an identity with Christian or faith kind of identity, up to 19-20% of that group say they are not affiliated with any organized religion. What are you seeing in your perspective with society as we see this large number of people, and most of those folks are like 30 and less, that just don't feel like they're getting what they need to get, and maybe Becky, you or Cameron, either one, they're not getting what they need to get from their religion through their organized religion. Are we missing something there, or is there some connectivity issue? Because that's quite a huge number of people.
Well, yeah, we are missing something. And what I have seen in my personal experience in my own life with my family, and with just dealing with other people of my generation, that 19 to 20% you said is age 30 or less. I'd probably extend that probably to age 40 or less. They're looking at something real, something tangible, something that makes sense. For the most part, my generation, whether it's religion, politics, or whatever, we're just tired of the, for lack of a better word, just bullcrap. We want something that's real, something that you say, this makes sense, and go with it. Instead of the things that are done for show that we have seen all through history, as religions, churches, organizations, whatever, as they grow and get bigger and bigger, there's some things that are done just because that's the way they were done. And I believe that 19 to 20% is looking for something that is in here, that is a real experience with God, that is a real personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I think that as Christians overall, the church overall, the last couple of decades has done a poor job of showing that and giving that and reaching out for that. So I think that that's where that percentage of people are.
And you mentioned a number of storefront churches and those kinds of things, which I think adds to the conversation. There is a sense in talking with folks and doing some prep on this subject today that ritualism has become far more swaying in certain denominations than the spirituality or the faith side. So how do you address that, Becky, when you think about ritualism versus faith, versus the concept of religion? Is ritualism overpowering?
Well, anything can be over-empowering when it's not in balance, and our lives have to be in balance, and that's what we see today is that a lot of people are looking for a crutch, and sadly many people have made poor choices in choosing that crutch. It is when we truly have an experience with God and we have that relationship. Law is important. Yes, we have to have rules, but I think in our society we've become so afraid of being, as I would say, politically correct or hurting someone's feelings or being offensive that we've taken a back seat. And in doing so, our faith does not shine. And when we have that experience, then people see it is real, as Cameron said. And they understand that you're not going to just be there on Sunday morning or Sunday night. You're going to be there whenever someone needs you. And that's what people want. But then people have to grasp that also and take their own ownership in that. Many people are looking for an excuse. And it is a very personal thing. And so what we want to do, we don't claim to be a church, JW. You know, we've had many people that don't really understand what it is. That's the reason we call it Tuesday at Tim's Gift, because that's when we do most of our activities there. We want to be, as we call, like a lighthouse that helps point people in the right direction. Everyone needs a church home. They need a church family. That's an important thing. But they need to know that that family's there for them. And I believe that what's happened is exactly what's happened in our schools, in most any organization. We've become so busy and so ritualistic that we've forgotten the personal touch. Ask any teacher. They will tell you we can't teach the child anymore. So what we want to do is reach the people. And we want to realize God has not changed. We've changed. Society has changed. America, as Cameron said, was founded on Christian principles. But what do we say to the world today? Are we truly a Christian nation? It has to come from leadership all the way down. And we believe that there are a great number of people who still believe in God strongly and do have that faith and want to see it rise up. And it just starts one person at a time, letting our little light shine. And that becomes contagious. And people have to stand up together and say, we will take our nation back. We can be heard. It can happen, and it's real. But it's that experience. It's the grace part. You have to have the faith, and then God comes in and He forgives. He loves His children, but He wants us to be obedient and to experience Him.
Cameron, oftentimes folks will say that religions become somewhat competitive in nature. You know, one church may have 100 members, one church may have 50 members. I see Becky smiling because she's heard this before. And it's a real serious concern for a lot of folks, and you alluded to a comment a while ago, people are looking something real. How does a church or a body of believing folks, faith-based organization, attract those people that are looking something real? And we got to go to break in just a minute, but I want to give you a moment to touch on that.
Okay. Well, and first of all, I'm not knocking against churches.
No.
You know, we're just looking at the evolution of things in
Absolutely.
general. But you know, like you said, that they are looking something real. There is somewhat of a competitive nature between churches, which is unfortunate. You know, we should be in a position in our churches, whether it's 500-member congregation or a 10-member congregation, that the Word of God is being preached from the Bible, and that people take that, grasp that, and implement it in their everyday life. And we should not get concerned with, well, let me preach this way, or let's do this so that we can maybe bring in more people for tithes and money. You know, all in all, we're all human. We're all born of sin nature, and unfortunately, sometimes things like that get in the way. So as far as that's concerned, you know, a lot of that is us. We can't blame it on just the pastors or the leadership or that. A lot of it is the people that go to church. What are we looking for? You know, if we are looking at something real, what do we do to get more knowledge or to grasp hold of that and then share that with other people? And if we're not, we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing with our faith?
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment with We Should Know. We're talking with Cameron and Becky Spell. Stay with us as we talk about faith and religion in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the program is We Should Know. If you happen to be listening to us on WCLN 1170 AM radio, we appreciate you listening. If you're driving down the road, stay tuned. We're talking about faith today and religion in your society, in today's world, in the United States, in the surrounding southeastern North Carolina counties. We're coming to you on Star Vision TV, also 2:30 to 3:30 on Tuesday, each and every Tuesday. There's a replay at 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with a summation of the Sampson Weekly newspaper. Keep in mind, next week we're going to be talking about gun control, but in a little different vein of speaking. Jeffrey Welty will be with us from the Institute of Government, Chapel Hill. We're going to talk about the constitutionality, that Second Amendment issue, those things that lead us to believe and understand the laws that relate to that, what we can and can't do, and get into some of the specifics of the depth and gravity of what gun control may or may not look like in the coming years or in the future. A lot of discussion about that. We're going to try to look at it a little bit deeper. But today, it's faith. And Cameron, Becky Spell, thank you again for being with us. Rise Up and Reach Out is the big thing that you've been touting coming up February 9th right here at the Civic Center in Clinton. You want folks to turn out. And that's going to be a huge event. Literally, you've had hundreds of folks respond to that, have you not?
We sure have, JW. In fact, we're excited. This is the second year. Last year, the event was called Rise Up, Recount Love. And that's just when we share. You know, a lot of times today, we don't really take time to even tell God or to tell loved ones how much they mean to us. And that's what we were hoping that would do. And this year, we felt a real need with all the things going on in our world today. We felt like it's time that we not only rise up, but we reach out to help people. And that's what we're hoping. And the day will be filled with people, ordinary people is what we like to say. Ordinary people from our community. There will be so many singers and speakers. There's just a variety of events for people throughout the day, and local sponsors who are making it possible.
You know, we were talking about before we went to break this whole issue of kind of competitiveness in religion and how faith builds into that. You know, even with charitable organizations now, there is a huge number of charitable organizations out there. And as you alluded to, Tim's Gift is, you know, 501c, I believe. 501c3. 501c3. And that's a nonprofit that just simply says that whatever donation, whether it's equipment or cash money or whatever, goes through you to the person in need. And that's 100% of that dollar is what you're telling us. Quite frankly, we don't really rationalize in our mind. A lot of times there's administrative costs with a lot of other charitable organizations, and I've read as much as 60 to 80% go to administrative costs. So how have you guys been able to sustain that? I mean, you've got to have a huge giving pool to be able to sustain that kind of organization.
Well, and when you say administrative costs, of course, we do have a light bill and a water bill and a phone bill. But as far as salaried employees, we do not have. Right. So we are fortunate enough and blessed enough that we have some other jobs as well to help, I guess, pay our personal bills. As far as donations that come into our organization, yes, we try to turn as much of that dollar, you know, outside of our light bill and phone bill, like I said, back into the purpose of the organization and into the members of the community and trying to help. There are a lot of organizations that do have much higher administrative costs. How can we do that? Well, number one, we are small, so we don't get we don't get millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars into our organization. It would be great if we did, because we could really do a lot then. But you know, God has blessed us. And it's like the Bible says, you know, you have to be good stewards of what you have, and we believe in good stewardship. So we know that since our income, as far as donations and things like that, is limited right now, we want to use that the best we can, each and every dollar, to help as many people and touch as many lives as possible.
And Becky, back to you. When we're looking at faith and religion, there's a certain amount of faith when you're giving that those funds are going to particular sources and local if necessary. And we've seen people go on missionary work all over the world. The reality is, and you've pointed out a number of times, Becky, that people right in, your neighbors may be the next mission trip, you know, somebody down the road. And I'm particularly interested in this idea that we alluded to, the concept of government and religion. You know, everybody steers away from that, and we can talk about it here, but there is a steering away, because we look at the freedom of religion, which is part of our Constitution that binds us, but the concept of that is the religious worship, whether it's Buddhism or whether it's whatever slant of religion you have. The reality is the bulk of the religious freedoms that we look at here is based on the Christianity philosophy of religion. Do you see growing conflicts in maybe not just in our area, but as you look at literature, certainly literature talks a lot about folks that believe in Muhammad and Muslim thinking folks. How do you address that and rationalize that as Christian thinking people, as folks that believe the concepts of Jesus Christ versus that of Muhammad or Buddhism or Marx, whatever it may be? Either one.
Well, first of all, you love them. As a Christian, you're supposed to love the person. Okay, so there's, regardless of what their religion, who they worship, who they call God, Allah, whatever, we still, as Christians, love that person. And we should love them enough to be able to pray for them and steer them to the one true God, the one word that is the Holy Bible. When we get tangled in with government and freedom of religion, it's a very interesting point, because it is, I truly believe that if we had Thomas Jefferson and some of those guys here today, that they would tell us that the purpose is tolerance. Just because you might have a different religion doesn't mean we're going to cast stones at you or imprison you or kick you out. But it's very evident when we look back at our Constitution, when we look at the lives of those founding fathers, that this country was established on godly principles and Christian principles. Jesus Christ and God, the one true God. And freedom of religion just tells us that in this nation, what I believe that they meant was that we would be tolerant of other people's beliefs and not criticize them or persecute them for that, because that's what our founding fathers came out of, was persecution. So we have to kind of take that into an altogether look at where things are going today, because what we have today is we have very small percentages of people that may not identify themselves as Christians. We have these special interest groups that are small in nature but have a lot of big funding, and they are not afraid to stand up and say, hey, freedom of this, freedom of that, and what we've seen over the last number of years is just a steering of our country away from God. We've taken them out of schools, we've taken prayer out of schools. In fact, just this year, Democratic National Convention, they wanted to take them off the platform. And I don't know if we're supposed to talk about that deep of politics, but it's just amazing to me that it just like the report that you just said says 75 to 80% of the people identify them in some type of Christian belief. Okay, if that's so, why do we continue to elect officials that are completely contrary and opposite of what we believe? The place that our country is going today is, in my opinion, our faults as Christians, because it's the Christians that don't mobilize and stand up, reach out, rise up, take a stand. If you're a Christian and you truly are a born-again believer and you vote for an official, any elected position that does not have the same beliefs, then I can't understand that. Irregardless of race, gender, political party, it doesn't matter. As Christians, we have a duty, especially with government, to make sure that we are in the know and that we research and understand what these people that we put in office believe in, because we are putting them in place to lead us, and we're being led in the wrong direction. We can take a look at what's happening now. It started out a few years ago. The government got their hands into the financial industry with the bailout of banks. They got their hands into the automotive industry with the bailout of the major auto manufacturers. Now they are telling us what we have to do with health care. And I have a great admiration for Hobby Lobby, who has stood up and filed suit against the Obamacare and the health care overhaul because it forces them to provide contraceptive and pay for abortions. And that's against their beliefs. So Hobby Lobby is a Christian organization that is standing up and saying, this is contrary to my biblical beliefs. We want to do something about it. We don't want to have to adhere to it. And now we've got the government standing up and saying, if Congress doesn't pass gun control issues, then I'll do it by executive order. So we have a lot of things going on that is moving us in the wrong way, and we got to pay close attention to the relationship between this nation and Israel. We all know, if we watch the news, that The personal relationship between our president and the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, is not very good. But we can keep an eye on that, and that tells us a lot of where our country is going. So, you know, if there's 75 to 80% of the people in this nation that calls themselves Christian-oriented, then this is a time in our nation that those people have to rise up, you know, look at what's going on and say, does this line up with my beliefs? Is this line up with what this country was intended to be? And begin to pray and begin to speak out and begin to, you know, go out in the communities and express their beliefs. We can't just sit by. I had somebody tell me the other day, you know, we were talking about some of these same things, said, look, just calm down, you know, it's all going to be all right. Yeah, we know it's going to be all right, but the passivity that we've had as Christians in general over the last number of years, we're coming to a time that we can't accept that anymore. You know, we can't be passive.
We have to have passion, and I think that's what we've lost. Is, you know, the passion. And I think of George Washington, and when we study and remember him, what do we remember? A great leader, but we remember him at Valley Forge when there looked like there was no hope. He was on his knees, and we believe that's where, as a nation, that we should be on our knees.
So, Cameron, what I hear you saying, you can have tolerance, but you can also, Becky, have passion in doing what you're doing, which reminds us that the last part of your reach out this year is what? Rise Up?
That's right.
And the Rise Up part is what you guys are talking about. We're going to take our break, and we'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Becky and Cameron Spell, well known here in the area as it relates to giving, care, and concern for their neighbors and community. Stay with us. We'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're coming to you live here on WCLN 1170 AM, Star Vision TV, Channel 16. We're also uploaded to YouTube now. If you go to YouTube on your computer and just type in We Should Know EDU. It's important to type in We Should Know EDU in the search block there. It will bring up a number of shows that we've done over the past months and weeks. Believe it or not, there's quite a few out there, and some of those shows are being uploaded to YouTube. We try to upload that weekly, our shows, so in case you're out of the area or you happen to be in another state or another country, you can pull up the shows, take a look at them. We try to stay as current as possible, so as you look at those shows, some of those may be shows that we've had like several months ago. But needless to say, the program today is about faith and about really, as we went to break, Cameron and Becky Spell, we were talking about the whole issue of tolerance, and tolerance in the sense of what that is, but at the same time, passion about religion. And let me start this second segment just with a kind of, I guess, a conversation here. CNN, you know, blogs now is the way we hear things and read things a lot, and just a kind of a recent blog here from Dr. LeConte with, in fact, he's King's College in New York City, and one of the things that he talked about, and this is somewhat of a quote in the sense that it's the, I guess, the kinds of things we hear, but it says, we will win our freedom because of the sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of God are embodied in all our echoing demands. And it further says, modern liberalism scorns the very identity of the sacred heritage of our nation. It rejects the view of Americans as an almost chosen people, an exceptional nation devoted to political and religious ideals anchored in a transcendent cause. In this sense, and its cause, Mr. Obama's party, the party of liberalism, would not know what to do with people like Lincoln and people like King, talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and talking about Abraham Lincoln, the president, former president of the United States, of which oftentimes quotes comes from both of those people. So to follow your conversation, Cameron, there seems to be somewhat of a disconnect in the sense of where we're going and what we're doing with a godly country. And as we, you know, watched and see our president sworn in and places a hand on a Bible, which just happens to be a holy Bible that we read and choose as the Word of God throughout the country. Where is the disconnect, and what are we missing here? And I basically read that quote to follow your conversation, to see if that added any fervor to it. But there's an abundance of literature out there that ties this together. So what are we missing, and how do we correct this kind of sense of where we are?
Well, I know Cameron's got a lot of views on that, but before he does, I think what we're missing, JW, is prayer. True prayer, and as we said, an experience with God. Just before we came on today, I left the children at the learning station, and we settled down for our morning devotion, and we talked about today's importance, with it being Martin Luther King's birthday, and the children all shared their views, and they have such an innocent, view of things, because they don't truly understand some of the past that many of us have held on to. And I think one thing we learn is we've got to let it go. We can be a nation united, a world united, but we've got to let our little pettiness and offenses toward one another, whether it's religion, race, whatever, let it go and forgive. And we've not done that. And God does have favor on this nation because of our connection with Israel, and because we were founded, as Cameron said, on biblical principles. But God can take that hand away too. And I think He's probably getting pretty frustrated with us, because He's given us second chances and third and fourth, and we continue to carry on and move farther away from His principles. So this morning, the children and I, we just had a prayer together, and I believe that's what we need to do, is pray and truly seek His voice. Not look to everybody else, but to seek what He leads us in, and He'll guide us.
Cameron, do you think some of the thoughts that you have, and some of the concepts that we've talked about here as it relates to faith are common thoughts throughout the country, or is this a segment or a pocket of the greater United States that's just totally unique, or do we reflect the feeling throughout the country?
I think it's a constant throughout the country. For the most part, I think there are certain areas that take more of the liberal view, as you were saying, where out of that quote there, that the party of liberalism was basically stripping away the godly foundation of the country. I do believe that. I believe that those pockets and those people that follow that are much smaller than what we realize, because as a whole, I believe the news media in general takes that spin to that. And of course, those special interest groups have no problem in going out and speaking out their mind and working until they get someone to listen and take their side of things. And I think that's what we're missing as Christians. You started out with mentioning Abraham Lincoln and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we are celebrating today, the 21st. I think that if either one of them were here today, they would have disapproval of the way this country is being led. It's all very simple in my view. We look at everything that's going on. There's a lot of things going on. You can pull up the news headlines and see all kinds of things, from mass murders to terrorism and new taxes and new laws, and the government's getting their hands around more control, it seems, each and every day, which is never a good thing in a free country. But it's all very simple. And what I believe has happened, and we can even relate this to the Newtown killings.
Sandy Hook.
Yes, which is very unfortunate. But it all comes down to the breakdown of the family unit. And that's what we have seen in the country over the last number of years. How many families do we have that, mom and dad and the children, they actually pray together, every day or once a week, or even sit down, 3 or 4 nights a week and have a meal together without a TV, without an iPod, iPad, phones going, text messages, emails, this and that. And not too long ago, I saw a statistic that said 50% of Christian marriages end up in divorce. So where is our family unit going? And even the young man that was involved in the Newtown and Sandy Hook killings, I've expressed to a number of people one thing that he was missing was love somewhere down the line, maybe when he was a small child. There's a breakdown in our family unit. So what's happening is, we're growing up children that don't see, mom and dad cooperating. They don't see mom and dad together. They're not in church together. As parents, we're passing kids off to be raised by our school systems or by the daycare or whatever it may be, and that quality time at home as a family is being broken down. And if God is not strong in the family, then He can't be strong in the church, then He can't be strong in the workplace, then He can't be strong in the government, then He can't be strong in the nation. It all breaks down to the family. And you can look at a historical aspect. You go back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, you had that in the family. There was a family nucleus that worked together, prayed together. Nothing was perfect, but they got through it, and generations built on that. You know, back in those times, there wasn't quite as many issues of some of the things we have today. You know, the media is widespread. And even with, I know you've got a show coming up next week on gun control. It's an interesting point. What's happened over the last few days with that is so unfortunate what happened at that school for those children, and those parents must be dealing with just tremendously saddened by all that. But I do find it ironic that our president has taken on the children as the face to push forward gun control, but he's using children to forward gun control through executive order, but has no interest in controlling things going on in the media, video games, things like that, where you can get a video games kids are playing and they're online with their headsets and killing people, and the violence in the movies and things that are available through that. There's nothing mentioned about that, but he wants to use children to force gun control, where I think that conversation needs to be widened. So there's just a lot of things going on, but it breaks back down to us individually. If I believe, if I'm a Christian, what do I do to establish that in my family and teach my children? Our family units have got to strengthen, and as Christians we have to begin to align with things that line up biblically. We have to support government officials that line up biblically. We have to support businesses that line up biblically, that our values are the same, because if we don't, then we're moving away from God at a much more rapid pace.
Becky, you mentioned passion and tolerance. The word passion gives us a sense it's something being done, something that you're really sincere about. The idea of passion, how much of that passion can we have in religion without really invading or creating conflict?
Well, I think, J.W., we always have to use that good common sense. And sometimes we know when it's time to be quiet. But I've found that a lot of times you have to rise up and be assertive, because people really do want to know that somebody cares. And one thing that I've taken on since I was sick and was healed, I used to be very quiet with my faith, and I wouldn't pray publicly. But now anybody who comes along, I'm quick to offer a prayer, because I see where God opens doors. Even a few weeks ago, the garbage collectors came by, and it was a rainy morning, it was cold, and we had water back in the refrigerator, and I thought of that scripture, give a cup of water in my name. So they started to go on down the road, and I went out the door with water, and I said, wait. And I thought, these guys are going to think I'm crazy. But do you know, when I handed those boys those bottles of water, they looked at me, and they were astounded, and it was like, thank you, ma'am. It was like, you're doing this, and I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to pray and reach out and share our faith in a real way.
Cameron, about 15 seconds to wrap up. I'm cutting you short.
Oh, that's fine. It's just important that people know that there are people out there that are willing to help. And as Christians, we have to be ambassadors of that. Whatever any religion the other person has, it doesn't matter. We still need to love them, whether they're dressed like us or not, believe like us or not. We should still love them and not judge them, and be there to support them and pray for them.
Becky, 5 seconds.
Okay. I'd just like to say to anyone listening that there is hope. There is somebody out there to help you. And if you can't find it anywhere else, we invite you to come to Tim's Gift, because we believe there's a God and He loves us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us today. The name of the program is We Should Know. Stay with us next week as we talk about gun control, and hopefully you'll learn something on the law and the Constitution.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question or comment regarding this or any episode, please send your email questions and or comments to jwsimmonsedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday afternoon beginning at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.